talk about movies. So last night, I stayed up late. I consumed multiple cannabis products and watched a film. This is a filmographic experimental review of The Butterfly Effect. So this is what I watched last night. I was thinking to myself, should I go to bed like an adult? Or should I stay up and watch movies like a child? And do drugs like a child? So I decided to watch a movie. And so we watched the goddamn Butterfly Effect. And so this is a good movie. Now, it's very cheesy, right? Like, there's a lot of really silly moments. But if you can get past that, I think the story is really good. I like the story. So, so first of all, this is a movie that's like, can you really spoil it? Like, I don't know, like, can you spoil it? Like, what is the spoiler? Oh, he goes back in time and changes something, and then he has a negative result. Spoiled! You can't really spoil this, right? Like, you gotta watch it. So anyway, the movie, like, the construction of this film, like, storytelling in cinema angle, right? Like, I think is really good. Like, the first, 20, 30 minutes of the movie are, like, the setup to the story, right? Like, it shows throughout his childhood, the main character's childhood, several moments, in his childhood, and then, that's, like, the first 20, 30 minutes of the movie, and I'm thinking, isn't Ashton Kutcher on the box art? Like, where the fuck is this guy? I'm just watching, a fucking, Malcolm in the Middle episode. What's going on? And then Ashton Kutcher comes out 30 minutes in, about goddamn time, right? But anyway. And so the movie's good. So anyway, one of my favorite parts about this movie is the main character's father being in the psych ward or whatever. And then he, himself, the main character, goes there later in the movie. I think that that's super interesting. I love the concept of time travel, right? I've been watching a lot of time travel movies lately. And every time I watch a time travel movie, right, there's always the suggestions, right? And so I'm just I'm a victim of the algorithm right now. Like, every streaming service I use has suggestions. Oh, you recently watched this. Here's some other fucking time travel movies. So I'm just going through the list. But anyway, so he's got an ability to go back in time to relive certain traumatic memories. And in order to go back in time to relive certain traumatic memories, he has to re-traumatize himself. And that's and to me, that concept, really awesome. That's an awesome concept, right? Using trauma, as a plot device, interesting, right? But tying it to time travel, also interesting, right? And so he realizes this. So then the movie turns into he uses his journals as a vehicle to re-traumatize himself. So he reads 6-year-old him or 8-year-old him writing some a memory down. He reads it as an adult. And Primer, by the way, Kyle in the chat, have I seen Primer? Primer is phenomenal. Absolutely amazing. But anyway, but yes, I've seen it. So he re-traumatizes himself. He reads his old journals. It triggers the memory in his brain. And then he goes back in time to fix it. And then he wakes back up as an adult, right? And the world is different, right? So, the whole point is that you make one small adjustment back in time and the whole world changes as a result. That's the point of the butterfly effect. It's you don't know. If I could, right? I could wear the red orange glasses, but instead of wearing the blue ones, what is the effect of that decision, right? If you believe in the many worlds theory of quantum mechanics, right? There is another universe where I've got the orange red sunglasses on, right? And in that universe, right, this is the everything else is the same until this moment where I decide to wear these, right? And now we're in the branching universes, right? Who knows what is different, right? People watching my live stream, right, seeing blue instead of orange or red, they might, undergo some sort of stimuli to change, who knows. Anyway, so that's the butterfly effect. As a theory. Anyway, so he goes back in time, changes a couple things. He's basically, what his goal is, the main character, is he's, one, trying to help his friends not turn into, like, drug addicts, prostitutes, and kill themselves, right? Like, he wakes up in a timeline, whoops, his childhood friend killed herself, whoops, you know, she's a drug addict, whoops, she's a prostitute, whatever. You know, so he goes back in time to try to change that, and every time he does, he fucks something up even more. He goes back, and then eventually, my favorite part was when he wakes up in the psych ward. Now, again, this movie, like, yeah, it's cheesy, right? The acting is not great, right? But you know what? You gotta look past the acting. I don't know, people are a little bit too critical of movies where the acting suffers, right? Just because the acting isn't phenomenal, just because Ashton Kutcher's a goofball, doesn't mean that, like, the writing of the movie all of a sudden suffers, you know what I mean? Like, I think the concept is cool. So anyway, eventually he finds out that he made so many mistakes that he wakes up in the psych ward just like his dad. And that's my favorite part of the movie. My favorite part of the movie was when he, like, has the memory of visiting his father as a young child, and his father's trying to kill him because his father realized that his son has the butterfly effect capability. And his father is like, well, I'm in the psych ward, so I'm fucked. But if my kid's not in the psych ward and they're going out there and changing timelines, I gotta kill my kid. Otherwise, I'm gonna, you know, who knows what's gonna happen, right? So anyway, that's my favorite part of the movie, is when he wakes up in the psych ward and then the doctor's like, oh, this is all, you're making up a fantasy world. You never had any journals, bro. Like, you're crazy. And then he comes up with another, like, Band-Aid solution to trigger a traumatic memory or something. Doesn't really make any sense. I'm not gonna lie. The ending didn't really make any sense. Because, like, the whole point of the movie is that, like, he has blackouts as a kid, and that's, like, the time travel occurrences, right? He represses the memories and then re-traumatizes himself as an adult, and then remembers the blackout periods, and that's where he changes things. But, like, the ending didn't really make any sense because he's at, like, a party. He watches, like, a movie, like a home video, and there's, like, no blackout there. I don't know. But anyway, but then he travels back in time and fixes everything, essentially, and it's a happy ending. But anyway, you know, I think the movie was good. Like, yeah, like, is it perfect? Is it great? Is it, like, the, you know, time travel gold standard of cinema? No. And it doesn't need to be. It's fun to watch. I love like, the drama is cool, right? I love, like, every time you go back and forth in the time period, I love kind of, like, picking out all the changes, right? You know, one of my favorite things about movies like this to do, like, a lot of time travel, right? Like, a lot of movies, right, like, time travel movies will have, like, time travel as an element, but they don't go back and forward many times, you know what I mean? And so, but this one, like, they go back and forth. Like, there's, like, you know, like 7 or 8 cycles or some shit. And, you know, so it's like every time he goes back into the kid version, right, it's like you focus on every piece of dialogue, every action he takes, and then, like, you know, it's like a puzzle. Like, oh, you predict, like, okay, so he moves to the left here. How's that going to affect that, you know? And it's fun. It's fun. Like, I don't know. I would describe this movie as fun. It's not, like, anything too seriously. You know, it's whatever, you know, it's fun. I know that there's sequels. Maybe I'll watch the sequels. I don't know. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was enjoyable. I thought that the core concept of using trauma to initiate time travel of some kind is interesting. It's also like a drug, right? He gets addicted to the concept of, like, you know, go back, you make one small change, right? You go back and you're good to go. Right, and then, you know, like, it's addictive, right, to have that ability where you can, like, just, like, you know, do experiments, right? Like, in one time run, like, he ends up killing someone because he's crazy a little bit, and goes to jail, and then he, like, re-traumatizes himself and then wakes back up and he's not in jail, right? Like, you know, I think that that's super interesting. It's a good concept, right? But then you don't want to fly too close to the sun. What if you wake up in the psych ward again and you're fucked? Anyway, good movie. It's a fun movie. I recommend it. I don't know about the sequels. It's possible that those are okay. But there you go. That's Ashton Kutcher, starring in The Butterfly Effect. I thought it was fun. It was a fun movie. You know, and I would recommend. If you like time travel, I'd recommend it. Don't take it too seriously, you know, but because, you know, if you take it too seriously, the story falls apart instantly. But As long as you have that right level of skepticism, you can enjoy the film. It's enjoyable, and that's all you really need.